Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the MitsuTimes podcast. Today, my guest is Mr. Bryan Vamos, owner and driver of a very cool 2G. How are you today, sir?
Good, Josh. How you doing, man?
I'm great. Love having you on. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. Your 2G goes back a long way, and you do as well. And I feel like sometimes the no prep kind of racing kind of goes on the down low, and we don't get to see those cars a lot. So I've definitely been trying to have you on. And I want more people to know about your car.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me, man. Honestly, imports are very few far between when
Right.
it comes to no prep racing. We're at a disadvantage for sure.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, the guys, they really don't like to see us there, honestly. And I really think they even hate it more when
Hmm.
they, see us in the later rounds.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's good for the sport, and I think it'd be good to get more guys out there.
For sure.
Whether it's an import, or not. We just need more and more guys out there. But it seems like when I go to these races, there's a lot of interest in the import stuff. As far as spectators go. So.
Hmm. Good. Well, Bryan, let's start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into racing as a whole.
Yeah, so I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and I really didn't have like an upbringing around cars per se, and it really wasn't for maybe 3 years after high school that I got into DSMs, and it just kind of stuck. I had a friend that liked them a lot, and that's kind of how it began. But quite honestly, it wasn't all-wheel drive stuff; it was front-wheel drive. In this area, um, back then, 2000, 5 era or so, it was mostly roll racing. So there wasn't a lot of dig racing per se in the area. It was all highway. So, I had a couple, quick front wheel drive cars. I ended up purpose building a roll racing front wheel drive car, Talon. Um, so I kind of did that before I ever got into the all wheel drive stuff. But that's when I purchased the 2G in 2010. So.
Was it just because of your friend that drew you to the 2G, or was there just something about it that you liked?
Uh, I kind of wanted to get into the all-wheel drive stuff, and I was breaking transmissions a bunch in that front-wheel drive, and I really kind of bought the 2G for it was bone stock out of Pennsylvania. I really bought that just to drive, and kind of enjoy. Um, but it wasn't too long after. I think it was due to a transmission issue um, that I ended up taking the drivetrain out of the front-wheel drive, the 6 bolt, and putting it in there.
Okay.
And then it just kind of progressed from there.
So you've been building and racing this car for a long time. Sounds like.
Yeah, so like I said, I bought it in 2010. Probably didn't have any sort of drivetrain in it to race until it probably was until like 2011, 2012. But then, yeah, shortly after, that's when it kind of took off, and I think it ended up with a FP 3586. That was one of the first turbos that went on that thing.
That's a good turbo. That's a good choice.
Yeah, it was one of the best turbos ever made, in my opinion.
I got to agree with you there. Well, Bryan, let's fast forward to today. Let's talk about the current setup on your 2G.
So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a dedicated small tire car now. And as far as the current setup, um, it's got a filled cast iron block, aluminum rod. It's on methanol now. Um, of course, automatic, and it's got all your standard parts in the automatic. You know what I'm saying, to withstand this power. I actually don't have the planetary gears in there yet. I might toss those in before the next outing here in a few weeks. But so the transmission's got all your kind of normal stuff. It does have a Quaife LSD, and then really we're kind of obviously you got to make power to be competitive, but what it really comes down to is kind of the setup of the car, suspension wise, getting that kind of dialed in to kind of accommodate whatever surface you may encounter. Um, because it's tricky. So having a good, set of shocks. I got some Viking triple adjustable shocks in the rear. The front's kind of, I really haven't messed with the front too much. I was going to
Mhm.
put some Vikings up there, but just got some BC Racing coilovers, nothing fancy, but they just kind of work for me. So I've yet to change them, but yeah, nothing too fancy.
So
Honestly, I like to keep things simple.
got
Um,
less things to break.
yeah, and really, the cars, it still has a stock differential, 2G differential.
Under
Um, yeah, and I usually don't change things unless I have an issue, and it is it is welded. I took the factory LSD apart and welded it, so it is locked. And then of course, in the no fancy transfer case, it just has the Liberty, 300M shaft, but it's still stock gears.
okay. What are we doing for turbo, and how much boost are we running?
It's got the Zona 7169,
Shoo.
so yeah, nothing too large really. I actually just put that on there. It had the 105 69 or whatever, but I tend to spin these things pretty hard, and I had a restriction not too long ago that was spinning them even harder to make the power. I've since fixed that, but yeah, just the 71 millimeter, and just had the first outing this past weekend, and it's looking pretty promising. It is spinning up there where Robert told me to. You know what I'm saying? Where I might start to cause damage, but um, I don't think anyone really turned it down during a race because they saw their shaft speed was a little too high. So we'll just hope it hangs in there. But these things are designed for high shaft speed, so we're gonna test that thing out.
Hanging on by a prayer.
Yeah, so I don't know. Boost wise, just probably 50, 55 pounds this past weekend.
Okay.
I haven't pulled the data from the last pass, fourth round, but I was on the button. I think it added 5 pounds. So I really don't know the max boost it saw.
That's still quite a bit. So you talked about the suspension. What are you doing for weight reduction? You got any carbon fiber body panels or anything like that?
Yeah, so the car's pretty light. Pretty light. The latest addition, as far as carbon goes, was the doors. So that dropped a lot of weight. Um, so as far as weight reduction, I mean, there's nothing inside the car. I do have a carbon dash, so it looks presentable. But there's really nothing else inside the car. It's got carbon hood, um, carbon hatch with optic armor all around. Well, still got glass windshield, but optic armor in the doors and the rear hatch. So I haven't had it scaled probably in the past year or so, 2 years since putting the doors and everything on. But it's probably sitting around with me in it, 2,400,
Okay, so
maybe,
still kind of
maybe,
on the heavy side.
yeah, maybe 23, and some change.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Brian, I know there's a lot of people out there that are listening to this that probably hear about no prep racing, but don't really know a whole lot about it. I want to start with what makes no prep racing more challenging than just going to your local prep track and racing there.
Well, the thing about no prep racing and what really draws people to it, no matter, what their platform is the fact that the surface is the equalizer. Now, to an extent, because technology, has got us to a point today where, I mean, you can go really fast on bare asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
Faster than like guys that don't do this would even comprehend. Um, so that's kind of why I like it because I'm a competitive person. I want to race heads up, and especially with this platform, if it's even front side no prep, there are some out there that are very very sketchy,
Mm-hmm.
but most front sides are out of the realm of DSM. Um, that doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be able to keep up. So the backside stuff, and it's still tough. Now, sure, you can race like True Street, which is also getting fast, almost as fast as small tire. Now you can get in some other classes, you know, below small tire, but it takes a lot of effort to compete with anything in small tire, whether or not you have all-wheel drive or not.
Mm.
So that's in general why I do it. Still, I still feel like I'm competitive. Now, of course, I have to kind of pick and choose where I
Right.
go. You got to, get in where you fit in. So I'm going to do this as long as I feel like I can win with the fast guys. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't cherry pick.
Right.
I've gone to some slower races and I've actually won one, and I think we hit curfew on the following one, um, out of I-64. Those weren't too challenging. I could pretty much just kind of showed up and could win those. But the ones I'm kind of after, you know, you have the fastest guys doing this. You know what I'm saying? So
You want the challenge.
exactly. That's if you look at my kind of my history as far as just this car goes. Um, I would kind of participate like in the shootout or whatever
Mhm.
IFO, sport. I think the class was. You know, I would win those, and there wasn't a whole lot of monetary winnings
Right.
from those guys to kind of justify the effort making the travel.
Oh, for
You know
sure.
what I'm saying? And so I just I constantly look for a challenge. So
Okay, I can understand that. Well, Brian, when you're going to a new, event for the first time, or when you're going to an event even that you've gone to before, and you unload off the trailer, what are you looking for? Like, how do you approach the track surface before you even get up to the line to do your first pass?
well, honestly, I do a lot of research before I ever get there. So um, in, in today's world, there's a lot of information out there if you know where to look or you're willing to put forth the effort, but like, videos on YouTube. So the first thing I really do before I even get to a track, I kind of have an idea based on what I've seen in videos, if you do this long enough, you have an idea, how fast you need to go. And sometimes guys they'll even talk numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually have a decent idea before I even show up, which is why I'm even showing up to begin with.
Gotcha.
Um, Back to the getting where you fit in type of deal. Um, but but yeah, it's not a whole lot different than you would um, walking the track at a prep event. There there are a few differences, because like down track, it's never going to have glue on it. You know what I'm saying? There might be some rubber from guys, losing a tire, far out there, but you're just kind of seeing how much teeth per se that asphalt has.
Right.
Some asphalt will take rubber really quick, really well. Some will not at all. The coarseness of the asphalt plays a big part in it. So you're kind of looking at that to see how much power you think you will be able to apply, but also whoever you might be racing, so you can kind of build your tune up.
That makes sense.
But as far as the starting line goes, like the starting lines in most cases get really fast, really quick. You know what I'm saying? Like by first round, there's a good amount of rubber on the starting line.
Yeah.
So and you can kind of tell how much rubber it might take, like I said beforehand. But after you get through first round, um, you kind of know how fast that track's going to get, or that street, whatever it is. So
Okay. Well, I know there's a lot of surfaces, when it comes to no prep racing that can be a little sketchy. Have you ever had like a moment on track where, you thought you were going to lose it or, you were getting close to a wall or anything like that?
thankfully, nothing too crazy. I guess the most wild place I've ever been to would be KD Dragway, and I mean that place is hard to describe with words. You really have to see it. But that being said, I mean, I was planning on going back this spring, but didn't get the car done in time, so I plan to return. I think in October of
Is
this
that
year.
one in Central Ohio?
It's near like the Ohio, yeah, West Virginia border,
Oh, okay.
so
Gotcha.
it's far east, right, 2.5 hours from me. It's Cincinnati,
Okay.
but that's definitely. I mean, even as a spectator, that's definitely one of the better races to attend for sure, for no
Gotcha.
prep racing. That place, like I said, you can't explain it with words. Just how bad the surface is,
No kidding.
but
Wow.
also just how fast cars are going down that surface.
That's crazy. So is it just because it's bumpy or
It's
just
extremely bumpy. It's the asphalt's all broken up, patched,
wow.
and my car. I, my car would handle the surface better now than it did then.
Hmm.
I've changed spring rates and I've messed with the suspension quite a bit since then. I had it set up pretty tight in the rear, and I mean, if you look at the videos, the tires are coming off the ground, the rear tires
Gee.
over those bumps. So it it robbed quite a bit of mile per hour. I thought something was wrong. The first pass I made down through there, I looked at Draggy and I was down like 10 mile per hour, and ended up gaining some of that back, but I think it was just the track, scrubbing that much speed off.
Wow. So, speaking of surfaces, Brian, one thing that I always find interesting when people talk about no prep racing is the strategy at the line with, either the flashlight starts or arm drops. So, what's your strategy like at the line?
Well, if you're yeah, if you're talking, because I'll race instant green or flashlight. Um, if you're talking flashlight, honestly, it matters who's holding the flashlight. There's a lot of different styles out there,
Yeah.
and there's definitely styles that I prefer, and then do not like at all. The one, the style I like the most is going to be with Limpy or Happy.
Mm-hmm.
They have almost identical styles, but you really, if you're going to be racing a no prep event with a flashlight, yeah, you got to understand the timing and everything, their style. They're all quite a bit different. Like I said, Limpy and Happy are pretty close to the same, um, but it it's going to take some time, with a particular flagger to get kind of comfortable and kind of have a feel for their timing. Some guys, some are really fast, so you got to be ready. From the time he locks you in or whatever. I mean, he might lock you in, hit the light almost instantaneously. So you got to be kind of ready for whatever. They'll kind of mix things up sometimes, or some of the guys, there'll be quite a bit of delay from the time they lock that second guy in. They might even run back. So you just got to kind of be on your toes and just be ready for whatever. And you know, it's kind of funny because first round this past weekend, I got jumped on, and I ended up protesting and won. And then second round, they protested me. And what's funny about the all-wheel drive stuff, foot brake, is that there's a delay.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm not saying it's a disadvantage. I can leave with these guys in the trans brake no problem, but you can almost use it to your advantage because from the time you go to leave, lift your foot, there's more of a there's more of a delay between the time that you go to make that decision and the tire actually moves
Mm-hmm.
much slower than a trans brake. So you can actually leave a little before the light per se and still not get caught by the tire crack.
Okay.
And I've done that twice on an instant green. I've guessed only twice. Once at my local track and once at Pacemakers a few years ago. And I've nailed it perfect every time because of that. But that's because I'm comfortable with the tree.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting there for so long, you pretty much know that okay, the tree is about to drop. So you can use that kind of to your advantage with that delay with the foot brake stuff. You know what I'm saying? You can let go of that foot before you see green and hit it
Okay.
perfect. You know what I'm saying? You have more of a chance. So there's a lot that kind of goes into it. And as most know, most races are won at the starting line.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're late, in today's racing, no matter what you're doing, it's so competitive. If you're late, you probably just lost that race. So
Man, that's brutal.
yeah, so pay attention to usually at no prep events, the flagger. Um, they'll do a quick rundown on their flagging style, what to expect, and usually they'll make sure you can see the light. Like in the sunlight, sometimes it's hard to see the flashlight,
Right.
so they'll try to do their best to make sure both guys can see the light. Um, but just pay attention. That's like I said, that's the most important part of the race. So
I always hear too, Brian, that one of the lanes it's easier to see. I'm not sure if it's right lane or left lane. Is there any truth to that?
well, it depends. I mean, your A pillar can get in the way sometimes. If you're in the right lane, I've actually had that happen on the street before. It may have been intentional, but usually, I mean, you can see it better if you're in the left lane.
Okay.
Because our cars, they don't have a big blower or anything hanging out the hood. You just have wide open windshield, on that side. But it all depends where the flagger's standing. Usually they're far enough out that it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But
Gotcha. Well, Brian, like as you're driving to an event, how do you mentally prepare? Before the event even starts, before you even get there.
usually, about halfway to wherever I'm going, I'll just have conversation with whoever's crewing for me. I mean, it might just be my girlfriend. And there's races my girlfriend and I will go to. But other times I'll have a buddy with me, and it's really just making sure we're on the same page um, with what we're trying to do. And it kind of, once we get there, it just continues. We walk the track, look at the starting line. They're all kind of set up different. The water or the puddle. How close it is to the starting line.
Mm-hmm.
You can never pour anything beyond a certain line that they usually mark out. Um, but really, I mean, I don't know that I'm thinking about a whole lot else really on the way to an event
That makes sense.
besides really just kind of making sure everyone's on the same page.
Right.
And
Kind of
it
knowing what.
really kind of begins once we get there and start walking the track.
Okay. Well, I think Brian, we've kind of hinted at it already that no prep racing has become super popular. What would you say has been the toughest competition that you've faced so far?
Honestly, I think this past weekend
Oh wow.
would probably be I mean, there's 55 cars in small tire, and and they're all some of the baddest small tire cars in the world. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of the races I go to, that is the case, but it, every year things get so much faster. So even though, last year, 2 years ago, there may have been, a good turnout, like a KD or whatever,
Right.
um, it's progressing so fast that, like the races get more and more competitive, faster and faster every year. That this past weekend, I mean, it's incredible. If I would have gone when I went this past weekend, like even a year, 2 years ago, I mean, it would have been a pretty easy win. But it just wasn't because there's quite a few guys going, you know, about the same as what I was going, or a little bit faster.
Right.
So
Competition's just getting harder.
it really is. So yeah, I would say it's really this past weekend.
Okay. Well, we talked about earlier that you've done, obviously prep racing before, race at the shootout and, everything else. What do you think has been the biggest lesson in racing that no prep has taught you?
Um, Really, probably just back to kind of what I just said as far as the progression. You know what I'm saying? Like progression in racing and stuff is inevitable,
Yeah. Okay.
and it happens so fast. Like, I mean, literally, I mean, by the day, the guys are getting faster.
Right.
Um, so I mean, honestly, I've just learned, you know what I'm saying, like you've got to get faster. I mean, every year, throughout the year even, because the guy in the other lane, he's getting faster by the day as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's a never ending thing. So you got to work hard. If you don't work hard at it, you're not going to win.
It's kind of one of those things where as soon as you slow down, that's when you're going to start losing.
Yeah. You have to keep moving forward. You got to just try to come up with ideas, to get faster.
Hmm.
Um, because technology, it's getting pretty insane, really, how fast these small tire small tire cars are getting.
For sure. Well, Brian, I know time really, time slips aren't really a big thing in no prep, but what would you say has been like your biggest win, as far as event goes?
Well, as far as racing in small tire, I've only got one technical win um, at I-64 backside. I've been to the quarterfinals
Mm-hmm.
at least a couple times. We had a local race at Edgewater, front side actually, a couple years ago.
Okay.
I think I went to the quarters, maybe even the semis. Can't remember. But then I went to the quarters this past weekend in Columbus. But so I don't really have any like big wins. That's really what I'm after. I'm after a win at one of these big races like this past weekend, or at KD, or got something coming up here in like 4 weeks, first week of September.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what I'm after. I've won a lot in years past at the shootout and IFOs. We had a local arm drop deal at Edgewater back in like 2000, maybe 13 or something in that area. I won quite a few of those, and then street races. I've been pretty successful on the street, um, but I'm
Okay.
really just after a a pretty big, you know, small tire like backside race.
Gotcha.
And that might be when I don't know, maybe hang up the all-wheel drive stuff.
What's going on, guys? This is Desmond here from Performance Destination. Just want to jump on here and say, if you're looking for any tuning, give us a call, contact us. DynoWise, if you're looking for a tuner remotely, contact us. We service the nation worldwide. Every state, every country throughout the Caribbean, everywhere worldwide, we are connected with everyone. Whether if a standalone computer system, AEM, Hall Tech, Fuel Tech, stock ECU, your DSM, your Evo 5 or 6, 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s. We tune them all. We specialize in all the computer systems. We meet the needs of all of our clientele. If you would like to reach us, you can give us a call at 941-268-7493, or you can catch us on our website at performancedestination.com, or reach us on all platforms at Performance Destination. You can either check out our YouTube channel as well, so you can see our work.
Well, Brian, you talked about having this car for a long time, and it's obviously undergone a lot of changes. How would you say that the car has evolved overall, since you first started racing it?
So since I first started racing that car, I feel like maybe the first race I ever went to with that 2G was probably the shootout, and I think it was max effort.
No kidding.
And I drove the car from Cincinnati, and I believe I won. I believe I won max effort
Okay.
that year.
This car can kind of, at least at one point in time, it could do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it doesn't turn anymore, but I believe I won that first one, and then from there, I don't know if it was the following year or not, but then I started racing both max effort and eliminator,
Okay.
DSM eliminator. My goal was kind of to win both of those. It never happened, but I did. And then I ditched the whole max effort and just started running Eliminator. I won a few of those when the car was auto.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I first started racing the shootout, it was a manual. But honestly, once switching to the automatic, it was like a cheat code back then.
So many
Uh,
people say that.
it really was like just for that era. You know, things weren't super fast back then, so I think it. I think it had that 3586 on it still, but it would do really well at the shootout and IFOs because really the one thing that event was always lacking is really good driving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying you could go there with a car that wasn't as fast as the others, but there's a good chance if you cut a decent light, you could win that race. So that was kind of true with the IFO stuff. I won quite a few of those, um, and that's when I kind of went from like the IFO stuff to like street, and that was kind of before like the backside stuff really got started. Like the
Yeah.
no prep stuff really got fired off, but it was kind of street stuff and some local stuff at my local track here at Edgewater. So it's kind of been all over the place. It just kind of progressed. The car just kind of got faster and faster, and we just kind of ended up on the street and no prep backside stuff. You
Do
know,
you like think back to yourself like, man, this car has come a long way?
it really has. I still have pictures of it, bone stock from when I bought it.
Wow.
So I tend to kind of hang on to stuff, and there's definitely some advantages to that because you really, when you're comfortable in a car, it helps you be fast. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
when you're comfortable, you can be a much better driver, I think, in that car.
Yeah. Helps your confidence a whole lot.
Yeah, you know how it behaves and everything. You know what I'm saying? And
Right. Okay. Well, Brian, one thing that a lot of people talk about is, some setups that didn't really work out for them, so that maybe others out there listening can avoid, or maybe they're building that car with that setup. Have you had any setups that didn't really work for you, or any tuning mistakes that you may have made along the way?
not particularly, honestly. Um, I might kind of take this opportunity to touch on maybe some advice. I see people make mistakes. Um, because really, as far as my car goes, I really haven't. Sure, I have some things I wish I shouldn't have done, or maybe should have done sooner. And the one thing I should have done sooner is switch to a more powerful ECU. Um, Not many people know this, but it kind of relates to what I'm going to talk about um, here in a second. But the car was stock ECU on ECM Link up until this year. I raced it last year with ECM Link. Now it's on Fuel Tech, but it's. I feel like the car's only been out. I took it out twice to Edgewater just to kind of make sure everything's working. The first outing was just making sure things shift. You know what I'm saying? Like really just the basics. Second outing, I actually was able to build a tune up to go A to B, and then I actually built my tune up for this past Saturday
Okay.
from the third pass from the second outing on Fuel Tech. Um, and I was able to build that. I got a good drive shaft curve, and I was able to build my tune up from that. So all I'm really getting at is I almost feel like I got more data in a couple outings with Fuel Tech, usable data, um, than I've ever had. For the most part, my car was very simple on stock ECU.
Yeah.
I had a good handle on it. I had a lot of experience on different surfaces, but the majority of what I would tune with was video. So I would always have someone video the car and from behind and the side so I could see what the suspension was doing, but also how the car was leaving. So
Right.
I can tell by looking at a video that the service or whatever can take more power. Um, and that's what I would kind of tune with more than anything.
Wow.
So switching to fuel tech, obviously I have drive shaft data. You know what I'm saying? I have traction control that I can apply relative to drive shaft data. Um, I can see what the car is doing without having to see a video.
Right.
If that makes sense.
That's invaluable. Yeah.
Video is always, great. I mean, you got to have video of every pass, but I can rely on data more so than I could before.
Understand.
But the biggest, I see a lot of people make mistakes. And I don't know if this is where you wanted this to go, but I feel like a lot of guys, they're putting car or parts on their car that aren't really necessary.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really focusing on what matters. There's, because this stuff's expensive.
Oh,
You know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
So, like for example, if you go back to, you know, like the factory rear diff in my car,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm not sure I want to talk about it because I might, give myself some bad juju. But um, a lot of I see a lot of guys that have 3000 GT diffs, even the 8.8 stuff now.
Right.
Like one, it's heavier. You know what I'm saying? It's going to slow you down, but it's not really necessary. You know, I think if anything anyone can learn anything, from what I've done is that just keep it simple. You know, really don't replace stuff that just it hasn't given you an issue, hasn't broke.
Right.
There's better things you could spend your money on that will make that car faster. So
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
that's a very good saying. Sometimes you got to get ahead of the curve a little bit. You know what I'm saying? If you know something's gonna break, but this stuff, I mean, it amazes me every day. How strong these parts are.
For sure. I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're definitely the putting it through a torture test.
Yeah, I mean, like this car's been 120 low 120 60 foots. You know, um, on the stock diff, no issues.
That's great.
So I don't. I'm pretty hard on it. That's one thing about these no prep surfaces. Sure, um, you might not hit the tire as hard in most cases, which shock the drivetrain, whatever. But there's a lot of questionable surfaces down track where, like, if you look at a drive shaft curve from Saturday, there's a lot of spikes in it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can feel it in the car. You don't even see it or hear it in the video, but it's there. So the tire is spinning and grabbing constantly down through there. And other tracks like KD, it's way worse. So that drivetrain, the all-wheel drive drivetrain, it doesn't like those shocks, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not easy on it. And
That's
somehow it survives. So
hopefully people understand the sub 120 60 foot is insane.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, you talked about being on the Fuel Tech now. Are you doing all the tuning yourself?
Yeah, this is a one man deal here.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I assemble the motors, I assemble the transmission, tuning, fabrication. Yeah,
Do
this
it
is
all.
yeah. I've learned that, especially tuning. That's some other advice I would try to give people. If at all possible, learn how to tune yourself. I hear too many horror stories. I see guys struggling
Hmm.
from not understanding, the basics as far as tuning goes, and it's really invaluable. I mean, it's one of the biggest things you can do if at all possible, if you're capable. I'd put forth, the effort.
Right. There's nothing worse than being at the track and needing an adjustment, but your tuner's on vacation or something.
Yeah, and no one treats your car like you do.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
I mean, there are some guys out there, okay, but it's rare. So,
Well, Brian, I want to talk about the platforms or communities, that rely on DSM advice. Do you get on like tuners or anything like that, or even Facebook groups to see if anybody else is no prep racing in their DSM, or sharing your knowledge or anything like that?
been a long time. I used to frequent tuners
Gotcha.
back in the day for sure. Um, and more so the link forums. You know, those were pretty big for a while. The link forums, but ooh, there's really there's really no prep advice
Right.
in the DSM world. Period.
Because it's really
That you're
plain
gonna
Jane.
find.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many guys do it. I never run into any, but you gotta kind of pick that from the other small tire cars, watching videos and stuff. I mean, YouTube is a very valuable tool.
Yeah.
You can learn a ton just by watching cars leave the starting line on YouTube and just listening. So that's if you're new to this, I mean, just listen, just soak up everything you can. There's a lot of information out there, if you're willing to try to find it, but you're not really going to find a whole lot. There's some there's some suspension groups on Facebook. I'm part of one, but I don't really pay attention to it. I've never really found anything too valuable there, but not to say there's not, but um,
It's
yeah,
not really what you're looking for.
yeah, DSM wide all-wheel drive stuff, man. You kind of just got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. The only one that I really know of that's really doing DSM stuff is that Richard Blyer. I know he's been on some of the Cletus events and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, really, other than you and him, that's the only two that I can think of.
Yeah,
So maybe we need to just get some more people out there, doing some no prep stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's a good time. I mean, it's a good group of people. You know, you
Would
just
you
yeah.
like if let's say that I came out to an event with my DSM? Would the you talked about it a little bit before, but would the guys kind of be against me being there, or is it one of those things where you just got to kind of warm up to them first?
Hmm. I mean, all the guys. I'll tell you what. It's a good group of guys. I've never had an issue with any of the racers. I mean, period.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a lot of guys like promoters and racers, and not the ones I meet, but there are racers out there that don't like the all-wheel drive stuff.
Yeah.
So it depends on the promoter, depends on the event.
Gotcha.
Usually the racers, I'm saying if it says all-wheel drive allowed in the rule set, no one can say anything. And in my experience, the racers are all cool about it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't hesitate at all.
All right. Well, Bryan, what's next for the build? You got any big changes coming up, or any other upgrades along the way? I know we're going downsizing the turbo a little bit. Is there anything else going on?
And right now, I literally just got the car wired and everything, and I just got the car out.
Just need some seat time now.
So really, it has potential. Um, it's on methanol now. I'm gonna put some M5 in there
Mm-hmm.
before the next outing, and there's still a lot of room for improvement. Um, so really, yeah, right now I'm not really thinking about any changes.
Gotcha.
I just need to get this thing dialed in, and like I said before, if I go out there, I think this race is guaranteed. I think 20,000 to win.
Wow.
Um, and if I win, if I accomplish my goal and win a big, small tire deal, you know, it might be done. The all drive stuff might be done. I might switch to something else.
Is there something else
But
that you have your eye on, or that you're thinking about?
I mean, you see tons of them, but there's a reason. I
Right.
mean, it might be a Fox body,
Yeah.
and who knows? It could have a DSM motor in it,
We
a 4G63, but
see some of those sometimes too.
it's finding all-wheel drive, well, races that allow all-wheel drive can be kind of tough sometimes. Um, so I think that's going to get maybe even harder with time, especially, any time an all-wheel drive does well, it kind of hurts us
Mm-hmm.
to some extent. Um, it didn't seem like the guys were too upset about, me being up in the quarterfinals this past weekend, but I'm sure they're talking about it.
Right.
And had I gone further, or won that event, that's probably going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
So, with the stuff going on down there in Florida, with the all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive Cletus deal, you know, guys are starting to see more, how fast some of these all-wheel drive trucks and cars have gotten. Um, so it's only a matter of time till they're kind of banned everywhere, I think.
Yeah. It
So
definitely feels like it's heading in that direction.
yeah, and there can be some rule sets. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. No all-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
You can limit it to a tire, just like they do with small tire. 28-10-5 non-W. If you limit all-wheel drive to a 26, there's a huge difference in tire size there. So, and what a lot of guys don't understand is the rear does most of the work. So I could go on for days talking about that. It's
Got to save
all,
the all-wheel drive.
yeah, all drive isn't the best thing ever. It's not. It does have a little bit of advantage in some areas, but it's also got a lot of disadvantages.
Yeah. What about Brian? Are you? I know you talked about a little bit about an event coming up. Are you planning on hitting up any other events this year that we can come out and see you at?
Yeah, so the event, it's in Clay County. They're shutting down a road. It's gonna be a legal street race.
Wow,
Um, it's down there near London, I think, like 30 minutes from London, Kentucky.
that's pretty cool.
And it's open to the public for spectators too. So,
Wow.
um, if that happens, it was a reschedule. It was supposed to happen, I think, in June, but it got pushed back due to rain. But um, that'd be a cool one for guys to go to. And after that, I know KD is somewhere in October, if I'm not mistaken. I'll probably make my way up to Milan for the PYOP.
Okay.
That'll probably be like October-ish. I like to go up there when it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
So offhand, those are a few that are coming to mind.
Okay. And then every once in a while at your local track.
You usually just show up there to test.
Okay.
Every once in a while, there might be something I fit in, but it's usually just for testing.
Gotcha. Well, Brian, I know we just talked about inevitably all-wheel drive getting banned from no prep, but let's say that I have a DSM and I'm getting kind of bored with the prep racing. What advice would you give me to have the most success of getting my DSM into this no prep?
I mean, making passes is the best thing you can ever do. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? For drag racing. I mean, you're always going to learn something
Hmm.
every pass, but um, you're just going to set the car up a little bit different. You know, I won't get into the details, but as far as like the all-wheel drive stuff goes, in my experience, you've got to get weight on the rear tires. You know what I'm saying? For the car to work. If it's set up too stiff, it's just going to spin. So you got to get that weight transfer to the rear, in my opinion. So that's where I would start. You know, get a decent tire on there and try to get that thing. You know, to get weight on the rear tire and not. You see all these cars bouncing all over the place.
Right.
It's got to be controlled. You know, you need a good set of shocks, good, decent suspension. Um, that's if I could just, give you this, the least bit of advice. I think that's what I would say. Just have decent suspension, decent tires, decent tire. You know, Hoosiers, great for no prep stuff. The DO6 compound, um, and just make passes. You know what I'm saying, and if you got data, collect data. Take video of the car, um, and just yeah, you just gotta just put the time in. You know what I'm saying, if you're willing to put the time in, um, and you continue to make changes,
Hmm.
you have a good chance for success.
Okay. Well, Brian, where can people find and follow you on social media so they can see some more of your? I know you like to post a lot of videos of you racing, and I always think that those are really cool because we always see two Gs at a regular track or on a prep surface, and we get to see your 2G against some big block V8s, out on some country road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really. I mean, Instagram. I usually post more stuff on Instagram. Not that I post a lot in general, but I usually put more on Instagram than I do Facebook. So really, yeah, just my personal Facebook account. Um, or I think my Instagram is Vamos Design and Fabrication.
Okay.
You can probably look it up by my name as well. It'll probably pop up. But
I'll have it in the details down below so people can click on it and follow you too. Make it easier.
yeah, that'd be cool. And I mean, you'll find my car in a lot of YouTube videos as well. You know, you're not going to be able to search for it necessarily, but
Look up some no prep racing. Find a 2G. That's probably you.
yeah, if there's a silver 2G, yeah, no prep racing, you know, on this side of the country.
Well, Brian, at the end, I always give people a chance to, give a thanks or a shout out to anybody who's helped them out along the way, or anybody who's helped them get their car where it is. Is there anybody that you want to give a thanks or a shout out to?
Yeah, really, just everyone that continues to make parts for these cars. I'd say specifically Kigley Racing. You know, I don't think, well, I know these cars couldn't perform with the development of these parts that he's making.
Right.
Um, and then really, yeah, just my buddies that help crew for me when we go racing. My girlfriend, like I said, sometimes just me and her that'll travel to these races. So you always doing this no prep stuff. You got to have at least one person. You can't really be successful showing up by yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big help when you have that helper that's able to take time out of their life and show up. So
Sure. That's awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story. I'm glad that hopefully we can get some more people to follow you, because I think that your car is super cool, and what you're doing is even cooler because not a lot of people are doing it. So hopefully we can get some people to follow you, and obviously wish you the best of luck at this upcoming season.
yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. Hopefully the listeners can learn something.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any other questions, maybe they want me to touch on a little bit more, feel free to shoot me a message.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you again, and can't wait to talk to you again.
Great, thanks, Josh.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.